This is 911. State your emergency. Hello? I can't help you if I don't know where you're at, honey. Where are you at? Where are you? I need as many units as I can get for Fairfield Road. Give me the numbers.
911, what's your emergency?
Hey friends, it's Fletch. I'm Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. Welcome to this new podcast series, Off the Cuff, Confessions of an ENP. Brought to you by 911 Inform, delivering next-generation 911 services for the enterprise today and making every second count. In this series, we're going to be talking to ENPs that have been on the job for years, as well as those brand new ENPs that have just passed the test. We'll dig in and have an in-depth conversation and find out what the ENP certification means to them. We'll talk about why they did it, what it means for their career, and what they did to pass the exam. Industry certifications are important to industry professionals, and the ENP certification is one that's admired by many in public safety. So join me as we find out exactly what makes an ENP tick in this off-the-cuff podcast series, Confessions of an ENP. Hey, I'm Mark Fletcher, ENP and Northeast Regional Director for NENA. Welcome to this episode of Off the Cuff. This is a special off-the-cuff after hours edition because somebody wanted to do this at 10, 11 o'clock on a Friday night. So whatever, I'm accommodating. We're talking with Sara Newpher ENP, a brand new ENP. She's a senior training specialist over at Motorola Motorola Solutions. What do they make? Radios and stuff? They're in 911, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But you're a brand new EMP. You've had, 17, 18 years out as a 911 dispatcher, and you went to the dark side.
I did. And, I say the same thing. I went to the dark side. It was...
I work on the dark side. Why do they call it the dark side? I don't get it. I'm okay.
Although, I've said that before in my career. I'm a third generation public servant. So my dad's a fire chief.
Really?
His dad was a fire lieutenant. So when I went to work for the police department, I said, oh my God, I'm going against the family tradition. I'm going to the dark side, the police. And then when I leave public service, I tell my dad again, I'm going to the dark side. I'm going to the corporate world.
It's not bad over here, though. It's actually pretty good,
It's
right?
Pretty amazing.
There's more stress in some ways, but the stress that we have, nobody's life is depending on that. So you've got that factor you don't have to deal with. Oh, if I screw up, someone's going to die. Yeah. So, but no, well, good for you. I mean, I'm glad to see people seeding the dark side with experience, because there's an awful lot of inexperience out there all over the market on both sides. And that's something that is probably the biggest cause of the bad reputation that we bring on ourselves sometimes. So good for you. What do you do at Moto?
So I've been there 13 months. I started out on the 911 call routing side as a 911 data analyst. So I was making sure my team and I that 911 calls, landline and wireless, are being routed to the right PSAP centers. PANEs are assigned correctly, GIS stuff, polygons, appropriate responding agencies, all of that kind of behind the scenes work. Then
that's the tough work.
Yes, there was so much more.
I got an antenna up on the border and we're hitting 5 PSAPs in the other state. What do I do? Sara!
Yep, fill out that Annie Alley discrepancy and it comes to us.
It's amazing on how many people who aren't ENPs and are just out there doing the job don't understand the technology and, the 3 sectors on a cell tower. And, it's not that hard. There's a lot to it and you have to learn it, but it's not brain surgery.
No, and honestly, I have to admit, and I'll call myself out on this, I was one of those dispatchers, that your Annie Alley screen pops up. There's all these numbers on it. I didn't know really what a PANE was. I just knew that you couldn't do your emergency callback number on a PANE, But I was just always like, oh, that's a cell tower number. You can't call it back. I didn't know what a peony was. And, I knew, okay, Latin long, I can plug that into Google Map. That was about the extent of it. I knew if an address was wrong on Aliani's screen, like, oh, I need to fill out a discrepancy. I'll hand it off to somebody. I don't know what happens after that. Come to the call routing side, and I'm like, oh, that's how all of this works. We're the people who get the discrepancy forms. Okay, that's why this was so important to fill those out.
Yeah, you know what? And, Tracy Eldridge, in her classes, she really stresses, she's the queen of discrepancy reports because she got burned a couple of times with the same industrial client, commercial client. One time a guy fell and got impaled on a fence. I mean, really horrid stories. And she's like, hey, look, this is the second time it's happened. You're going to get it fixed.
Yeah, it's a problem.
And, if you know Tracy Eldridge, you don't mess with Tracy Eldridge. She will come hunt you down. So what did you do for your ENP training? How did you approach that? Having all that experience in the industry, did you feel like you needed it?
No. Yes and no. I had heard about ENP when I was in the dispatch center. I never really knew what it was. I didn't know what the purpose of it was. And I was like, why would I ever need this as a dispatcher? I come to Motorola and I'm like, oh, ENP is a big deal. Like,
yeah, and a lot of people have it over there.
And it's like, it's really well respected. And when you tell people, like, you know what, I think I'm going to sit for my ENP, it's like, oh, wow, good for you. Like, that's really awesome. And then it's, hey, I passed my ENP, and it's celebrated. It's a big deal. So I was like, wow, in dispatch, at least where I always worked, nobody even knew what ENP was. So when I first registered for it, I'm like, yeah, I can take this test. How much studying do I possibly need to do? I've spent 17 years in the dispatch center. Like, I know what I know. Okay. But I want to be prepared because I was like, I'm going to be super embarrassed if I have to tell my boss that I did not pass the ENP exam and my work is paying for it. So I'm like, I better get in one of these study groups. So it was Tracy Eldridge's On Scene First. She didn't have a live study group for the fall session that I was just in, but she's wonderful and has everything on YouTube. So I watched every single episode. I took dozens of pages of notes. I listened to podcasts. I had the Nina study guide. I went all out because I'm like,
So let me ask you, how long into the videos did it take you to realize, holy crap?
Probably 2 minutes. And I'm like, wow, I was pretty full of myself thinking I didn't need to prepare for this at all, but I'm really glad I did.
Yeah.
And it was just to save my own skin because I did not want to embarrass myself. I did not even tell anyone in my family other than my husband that I was even studying for or taking this exam because I was so scared I was going to fail.
How long did you study for?
I registered in, I want to say July, got my study guides in first week of July, second week of July, and I studied regularly from then. I took my test October 20th, and I was still going through my notes that morning in the parking lot.
Wow. You know what, when I took mine as well, I got to the test center early to make sure that I, was there, and I spent probably 45 minutes in the parking lot going through the problem areas that I knew I had and doing the last minute memorization on stuff that I knew I wasn't going to learn.
Right. Because it's like, if you don't know it by then, you're just not going to know it.
Yeah, exactly. And, I'm like, okay. And most of my stuff was on the legislative side, which is kind of funny because that's what I focus on now with most of my work. But oh yeah, the guy that wrote Kerry's Law, he almost didn't pass the legislative on his ENP. Hey, come on, it was a while ago. But it was like, why do I need to know these dates?
Yeah. And I mean, it's a lot, and there's so many different parts of the legislative stuff that's very similar to one another. And so trying to keep them
Yeah.
straight was a little bit difficult. But honestly, I found that my 7 months as a data analyst on the call routing side at Motorola was more beneficial in passing the ENP than my 17 years in dispatch.
Yeah. Well, because that's where you're getting into the nitty-gritty mechanics. And that's one of the things that an EMP certification or testing process will just grill the crap out of you on, is the workflow of a 911 call. Every component that's in the network that touches it, and what it does and why it does it and why it needs to do it. And it makes the transition to next gen going, why didn't we do this 20 years ago? Right? This is crazy.
Yeah, and just all the behind the scenes stuff. When I was a dispatcher, I never learned about it. And quite honestly, I didn't care.
Never had to.
Like, as long as that call came to my dispatch center and I could pick it up and I could help the person, I didn't think about how it got to me.
So let me ask you, now that you know it, and now that you're living it and working it in your normal job, would that have helped you as a dispatcher?
Yes.
How?
I just think, you get these calls and you wonder sometimes, like, how did this person get to my agency? They're in a different state, or they're on the other side of the state, or, okay, why am I constantly having to transfer these calls to the neighboring PSAP? Like, why? And none of that was ever taught or explained. It was just like, oh, that's the way it is. I don't know. It hit off the tower the funny way, or, oh, it's just where they're at. They're in a bad location. And then it's like you get to the other side of it and you're like, no, this is something that can be fixed if you tell the appropriate party. They have the capability to fix it, and that's why they're there. And I'm just thinking, how much time has been wasted throughout my career trying to question a caller onto where exactly they're at so I can figure out what jurisdiction they're in, try to get it to that agency, try to transfer it. Oh no, the call got dropped. Now I have to take all the information from the caller, hang up with them, and relay it. How much time have we wasted?
And that's why Tracy started to really home in on discrepancy reports. Now, the other good part is in Massachusetts, where she is, they have a very, very proactive state agency that really takes discrepancy reports to heart. And they actually, when the MLTS stuff came up, they actually started making a list of companies by name, and they published it on a website. It's hard. They don't make it easy to find, but if you search for it, it's there. Yeah. And it's the company name. And there are some company names in that list that you would not expect to be on that list that are very interesting.
Yes. I agree.
Companies that are in the business,
oh, yeah.
so to speak. Yeah. So, whatever. It's a problem. It's a problem. So, but now you're part of the solution.
I hope so.
At least for some of them. You can't fix the MLTS stuff, but...
No, that's a mess.
It is a hot mess. And it's so next gen, I think, is going to fix a lot of it. So what's your opinion on next gen kind of being in the middle of where that transition is going?
So I have to tell you, I am like right in the middle of next gen, and
because Motorola, they do next gen, right? They're
we dabble in it.
People over there that they dabble, yeah.
So when I was in dispatch, next gen, it's like I would hear that term from time to time. Never really thought about what it was. Didn't know what it was. I'm just like, oh, okay, next gen, whatever. It's the newest thing. Okay, we won't.
You're going to work. You're doing your job, and you're going home.
And I'm thinking, oh, if it's new and nice and it works, like my agency will never see that. I don't know. So
Exactly.
I get to MSI and, everything is next gen call handling. And I'm like, okay, what is this next gen? I've got to know more about this. And so now in my current position, like I'm in charge of developing the training curriculum for our new call handling product, and it's next gen. And I'm like, oh man, there's some cool stuff coming down the pipeline. And I feel so excited to roll this out. And it's going to change the way dispatchers do their job. And I'm just so excited to be able, from sitting in that seat in the dispatch center to now being able to go out and make thousands of dispatchers' jobs a little bit easier.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not, good for Moto. They're doing a lot of great work, but it's not about a brand name, whether it's Moto, it's Carbine, it's Rapid Deploy, any of them out there. It's next gen, right? It's all the same. Functionally, it does the same on the back end. That's what next gen's all about. Complete total interoperability. Yes. You might do it a little different way to get to the end result, but you're getting to the end result, and that's pretty much the same. That's cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a game changer. And I just hope that we can get so many agencies on board with the next gen and that get everyone the best and current technology, because
today you have 6,000 silos.
Yes. Yeah. Next gen is going to save lives. So it's super cool to be like right in the middle of it.
In the job that you're doing now, with discrepancy location management and the sectors, that is almost going to become, it's almost going to put that position as a redundant position, because if it's done right, the network should be able to determine that and fix it autonomously.
Yes.
Or at least create a list. Hey, Sarah, here's the changes I'm going to make. Okay with you? Yeah, that all looks good. Go for it.
Yeah, because it's all about the caller's location, not the closest PSAP, not the closest tower, not the address where their phone is registered at. It's where the caller is standing when they're making that call. That determines where it goes.
You do any international work?
Not yet.
So I was exposed when I was at Nortel and Avaya. I was exposed a lot to the international, and actually at Avaya I did a lot of stuff with ENA, the European Emergency Number Association. So I'm not taking a stance on this. I just don't want the hate mail. But what I saw over there was a lot of countries that started out and have been forever. Police is this number, fire is this number, medical is this number. Now, it can go way beyond being efficient. In India, there was 20 numbers. If you're 65 on Medicare and a male, call this number. And you had to go through this flow chart, and people kept lists on their refrigerator to figure out, right? I mean, that's overkill.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what happens when you need police, fire, and EMS all at the same time?
Yeah, exactly.
Someone set my house on fire and I'm burned. Like, what number do I call?
Yeah. So someone shot a flaming arrow through me. I'm on fire, as is my house, and I need to go to the hospital. So, that involves all three. So there should be, yes, a number, right? One number to call.
Universal.
But is it so bad to say I need the fire department because I got a working house fire? Okay. I don't know. You know what?
I think it depends. I think it depends on where you're at, how your agencies are set up. How many times has someone called you on 911 and they don't really know what they need? You ask them, do you need the police or the fire department? And they tell you, well, I don't know.
Yeah. I need to know how to cook a turkey. It's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
okay, well,
we've taken those calls.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My favorite day not to work was the 4th of July because at 8:50, every line lit up. Do you know what time the fireworks start?
You are triggering
yeah.
some traumatic responses in me right now because
No kidding.
every
It's
year I would tell my fellow dispatchers, if you work the 4th of July for me, I will work every single holiday this year for you. I despise.
But I used to use that as a perfect example. Oh, here's Sara Newpher calling us again at 8:50 on the 4th of July, like she has every freaking year for the last 10 years. Is it wrong to take her call and throw it to an IVR? Hi, idiot. 911 is not going to tell you what time the fireworks start. By the way, they start at dusk like they have for the last GD century.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Is that so bad? It's the perfect example of artificial intelligence going, yeah, I know what this call's about.
Yes. Or, the lady that calls the first week of August and wants to know when trick or treat's going to be.
One of my favorites, I had a sweet old lady, 37 Indian Parkway, every Friday night, 10 o'clock. I've got aliens looking at me through the light switch in my apartment. And you know what? If we were not busy, I'd send somebody out and they would scan the wall with the portable. And they go, okay, we got rid of them. You should be good.
Yeah, she's happy.
Okay. And she's happy.
Yeah.
But you know what? Some nights I'm working 2 MVAs and I got a bar fight going. I don't have anybody to send over there.
You don't have the patience for it.
And what she needs is to talk to somebody in counseling.
Yes. Yeah,
Right?
but we wear all of those
perfect.
hats in dispatch, We're counselors, we're social workers, we're nurses, we're everything. We're lawyers.
Oh, yeah.
Punching bags.
I've got a legal question for you. Okay. Yeah, bump up my salary by 4 or 5 times. Maybe I'll get the research for you there. Horrible. So now you're an EMP. What's that going to do for your career? What are you going to do with that beyond just do a better job at work?
Well, honestly, I thought when I go into these big dispatch centers and I'm going to try to tell them a new way to do their job, I want to have some street cred. I want something behind my name to back me up that says like, oh, hey, by the way, she might know what she's talking about. Maybe we should listen to her. That was a big motivator for me. And also just because like the ENP designation at Motorola is well respected, it made me really want to have that because I want them to see there that like I'm serious and I'm committed to 911 and dispatchers and public safety. Just because I don't sit in the chair anymore, I feel like my dedication and my commitment is even stronger now. If that sounds strange, it might, but I feel more dedicated than ever with it. So I just feel like, okay, I have this designation. I need to utilize it and I need to start trying to do something good for this profession.
Well, there you go. Plus, you got the $5,000 bonus from Motorola for passing, right?
I'd love to know where you heard that from because I'm going to call
So
them
you need to
directly.
call Jeff Whittick. You need to call Jeff Whittick. He's a vice president over there. And you tell him that Fletcher said that you're entitled to a $5,000
I'm sure he'll get a kick out of
for
that.
passing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he will. It'll make my phone ring pretty fast, I'll tell you that. No, that's great. But I mean, they did pay for everything. They do recognize you over there, and that's great when companies do that. What advice do you have for all the other people that are out there? But that goes for both sides. I want you to answer that twice. What's the advice you have for the telecommunicator that's out there? And what advice do you have for the commercial person that's never worked in dispatch and has just been on the commercial
Sure.
side?
I think for the dispatcher who's sitting in the chair and she's like me a few years ago saying, why in the hell would I ever go get my ENP? What's it going to do for me? How is it going to change my job? It just gives you that respect. It's credibility. It shows that you went the extra mile and that you're so well rounded with everything in dispatch. And if you want to go for that promotion, you're going to stand out above everyone else. If you want to be a director, if you want to do something at the county or the state level, you're just elevating yourself. And I think that some centers or counties, and definitely states, when they're looking for directors and leaders, they want an ENP. Some places,
More and more, you'll see ENP certification preferred and required within 6 months to get and maintain.
yep,
Things like that. That's great.
absolutely. And then as far as like the commercial side goes, go get it, because and it's kind of the same thing for dispatch, the same reasons. It's going to give you some credibility, and it's just going to give you this knowledge that you didn't have before. And if you don't know, if you've never been in a call center and you don't know how it works or the stuff those dispatchers go through every single day, maybe it'll give you a little bit of insight. And it just puts you above the next person. And I don't say that to be condescending in any kind of way, but it shows that you made this commitment and you were dedicated and you had this goal and you accomplished it and you worked for it because
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with saying it puts you above the others because it's something that makes you stand
Yes.
out. When you go to a job interview, if you wear a T-shirt or you dress up nice, it puts you above. Right?
yeah, I mean,
It's just the way
yeah,
it is.
it makes you memorable. If you are interviewing 10 people and one person has their ENP, you're going to remember who that person was.
Yeah. Or if you're doing a podcast and your little name tag doesn't have ENP on it.
And you get yelled at.
But you get yelled at, but the host kindly corrects it before you go live on the air. I mean, things like that happen.
I guess so.
You wouldn't know, but you would
No,
imagine.
I heard it from someone.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's great. I mean, that is really fantastic. So you think this has been a bonus for your career, and you appreciate that, and that's great. Being part of training, have you thought about extending that training out into others at your company and kind of maybe being the cheerleader ENP?
Well, I don't know that I'm quite there yet. I've only been in my training position for 4 months, so let's not jump the gun here.
What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Come on.
So maybe because I feel like I'm leading the training team for, our next big product. And I'm going to be collaborating with a lot of teams and a lot of different people and a lot of different dispatch agencies, which I'm super excited about. So I just feel like I can definitely have that impact. And if people see ENP after my name on my business card I hand to them, what's an ENP? What is this? Then I can tell them about it and what it involves, what kind of stuff you learn, the whole process. And maybe
all right, so here's the final exam on your test. This either lets you keep your letters or I get to take them back right now.
Oh, no.
So, Sarah, what is an ENP?
I don't like this question.
Yeah, no.
So to me, ENP obviously stands for Emergency Number Professional. It just shows that you went the extra step in your career to learn more about the 911 profession, that you're dedicated to it, you're committed to it, and you want to see and make changes in the 911 world just to make things safer for everybody, to be a part of working groups to change standards.
That's good. You know what? That's fine. You don't have to go on for 20 minutes.
I don't want to go on for 20
But
minutes.
let me tell you. No, it's a story, and I never really talked about this a whole lot. So you're the first victim.
Gee,
But
thanks.
it's really important to have that pitch in your mind. So when someone asks you, "Hey, what's an ENP?" Well, it's a certification mechanism for the industry that I've acquired that shows that I've got the knowledge across the industry on the technology, on the operation, and that I've got the proper knowledge to make important decisions for people that are involved in the industry. And I've committed myself to this certification that I have to redo every 4 years. It's not a one and done type thing. So, I don't say the same thing every time, but that's what I would say when someone says, "What's an ENP?"
I like that.
Depending on who it is.
I'm going to go back and record this of you saying that, and I'm just going to
right.
have it on my phone. And whenever someone asks me, I'm going to be like, "Well, hold on, let me play this for you."
This is what Fletcher said. But, again, it's something that you should get played back in your head because people will ask you. And the clearer you make that answer, the more likely they're going to understand and respect what it means. But they might say, "You know what? Hey, I want to be an EMP too."
Yeah. And I've had dispatcher friends ask me, I post on Facebook, "Hey, I'm an ENP. Great. Good for me." Friends texting me later, "What's ENP?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, this is what it is." And well, what's the point of having that? Okay, well, this is why I think it's good. And in my career, I think it's really going to help. And it's going to give me some credibility when I'm going into dispatch centers.
Yeah, this is like, people say, well, it's like getting your master's degree.
Yeah, as someone who has a master's degree, I can say that I think studying for my ENP was harder than a lot of stuff I did in grad school.
You know what? I've heard that from a lot of people that have their masters. What do you have your master's in, by the
Criminal
way?
justice with a concentration in criminal behavior.
Oh, nice. Okay, we're done.
Yeah,
talking.
well, I never did anything with it, so don't worry. I've already analyzed you, and I have a diagnosis.
That wasn't me. That was somebody else.
I have to say, if you're a dispatcher and you're in the dispatch center still, and that's where you want to stay forever, kudos to you. I so admire that. Go for it. I love that. If you're a dispatcher like me and you were in the dispatch center and you are burned out and it's time to leave, because that's where I was. I wanted to stay, but I knew I couldn't for my mental health, and I had to get out. There's life after dispatch, and it can be super amazing. So regardless, if you want to stay, that's amazing. If you want to get out, that's great too. Go for it. Don't be afraid.
All right, so stay in touch. I'm gonna start touching back with people about a year after we talked. So I got a few years of catch up to do, but we'll chat in a little bit, and then we'll do a little side by side comparison. And
I'm nervous for that, but hopefully I'll see you before.
Yeah, you should be nervous for that. You should be nervous for that one, because that one I'm gonna work on that.
Oh shoot!
Let's play a clip from 2 years ago.
Oh man. Maybe you should be nervous for that because you don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. We'll do another after dark.
Yeah, but I have control. I have editing control.
I'll see you before that at a conference.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thanks very much, Sarah. Have a great evening. Go enjoy your weekend. And I'm expecting a phone call.
I won't let you down.
All righty. Well, that wraps up this episode of Off the Cuff, Confessions of an ENP. I'm Mark Fletcher, ENP, and I'm the Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. Off the Cuff is sponsored by 911 Inform, delivering next-generation 911 solutions to the enterprise today and making every second count. Visit them on the web at 911inform.com. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Fletch911. Check out all my blogs and podcasts at fletch.tv, and be sure to like and subscribe below. That way you'll be immediately notified whenever a new podcast is published. Thanks so much for listening. If you're in public safety, thanks for what you do. Take care and have a great day.